Break, we heard from Heather Surovik. She's hoping the death of her unborn son leads to a law to protect all unborn children in Colorado. Former Arkansas State Senator Bill Walker, a Democrat on the Public Health, Welfare, and Labor Committee, cast the deciding vote for the Fetal Protection Act, a law that I signed. It was crucial in the case of 23-year-old Shawana Pace, severely beaten and lost her daughter the very day before she was to be born. Bill Walker joins me now from Little Rock. Senator, it's great to see you again, and thanks for being here.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you. Good to see you as well.
I remember you were the deciding vote in passage of the Fetal Protection Act. Laws like these that protect women and their children, I think they're important. Obviously, back in 1999, you made a courageous vote and took a courageous stand. Why did you think that was important then?
Well, it was important then as it is now, and I should say, Governor, if you don't permit me to, I'd like to let Heather know that you know we are praying for her and her family and the loss of her unborn child. You know, there's just no excuse for it, and in one ways, I'd like to brag on your leadership and the state of Arkansas, because we took, as you characterize it, a courageous move. But it was the right thing to do. It wasn't about party affiliation, what was anything other than what was the right thing to do to protect our children. And I hope that Colorado will follow that leadership and do whatever is necessary to be sure that incidents like this are dealt with, and that there's a way that prosecutors have the appropriate tools that they need to be able to pursue this. The issue that I think is really, really important, and I hope that the Colorado folks pay close attention to, is that beyond the fact that this was intentional, you know, DWI in many cases, according to lawyers, is not necessarily an intentional crime, but it's the result of a crime, if you will. And we want to be sure that the Colorado amendment covers that type of crime as well. The worst thing that could happen would be to go through this amendment and another child is hit by a drunk driver and that amendment not cover it. And I want to be sure, because when I looked at it, it appeared to have intentional harm, and that was not the case in the DWI case, from my understanding of it anyway.
You know, one of the things that I so appreciated what you did. You took the stand. Frankly, as you will recall, it's one of the things that I think bonded a relationship that you and I continued to have, because I so respected your courage. You didn't do that because you were a Democrat. You didn't do that. It had nothing to do with politics. It had to do with the personal experience that you felt was an important one. And it wasn't long after that this case happened, Shawana Pace and her daughter Heaven. I have to believe, Senator, that you felt an extraordinary sense of vindication and validation for the stand you took, courageous as it was, when that very law, just shortly thereafter, was applied to these thugs who killed that baby.
Yes, sir. And to that point, I will say to you that some of the biggest opposition that I met from members of my own party, I'll never forget the day that the chair of that committee called me after that was publicized and said to me, he said, "Listen, Bill, you were right and I was wrong. And I'm glad you pushed for that." And so he himself, I think, evolved to see the merit of what it was we were doing and the reason for what we were doing and how it was so important to protect human life. And so, you know, it was a vindication. I hate that we had to have something like that to occur for us to be vindicated, but it is important that we protect our children at every stage of life.
Well, I want to say thank you again, not just for being here, but for the political courage that you did and have continued to show. I still consider you a very dear friend, and thanks so much for being here today.
Thanks, Governor. Thank you.
Always a pleasure.